Welcome to Interesting Enough. He is Trey. I am Nolan. Thank you guys for joining us once again. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, thank you. Of course, go ahead and give us a like, subscribe. It helps us a lot. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. Trey, man, what's going on, man? How you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling good, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, we just were talking about some college football stuff that I kind of want to get into on the pod, but
That's not the
yeah, I'm
first
feeling pretty
topic.
good. Yeah. I know it's not the first topic. You don't let me get away with it, but yeah, man, I'm feeling pretty good for the most part. Just watched some in-season tournament basketball with the Heat, so I do want to talk about that a little bit later too, because I like how that's kind of working out for the league. But we got some more NBA stuff that we got to get into. That's a little pressing. I think Trey, when we were gonna do the podcast, I think the first thing I was thinking about was talking about Draymond Green coming back from his suspension, because we really didn't talk about it too much last week. If I remember correctly. But then Josh Giddey came out, and people have already seen the Josh Giddey news. But what's going on, man? Maybe you can fill people in a little bit better than I can, because I got some details. But what's going on with Josh Giddey, and what's going to be the solution here for the team and for the league?
Okay, well, to give everybody like a short synopsis of it, somebody put out a tweet that Josh Giddey likes to have sex with underage girls, and supposedly
That's
they
a wild tweet, by the way. Just like
no,
I mean, for somebody to even put that. But yeah.
yeah, it's a really wild and random tweet. But there does seem to be some evidence because we see like snapshots of where this appears to be an underage girl with Giddey with his shirt off, and supposedly the tweet goes further into detail explaining how they met at the club, and yeah, Josh Giddey had himself a 15-year-old girlfriend. Now I do have to ask you a question because we don't know
I got
whether
a
or not
million
it's true.
follow-ups, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a question. What's like how are you attracted to somebody that's 15 when you're 21? Like I just don't understand that.
Okay. I mean, well, I think there's a couple ways I could answer that, but here's what I will say. To be fair, there's a legitimate way. Look, there has been people that get cased up, and that's they just are unaware of someone's age
And maybe
based on
that's
how
what
they
it
look.
was. They met at the club.
Right. Yeah. So that's like, we got to put the elephant out there, right? Sometimes that happens. That's why people ask for IDs, stuff like that. How about the situations you hear? I remember the Akon catching strays on the podcast right now, but Akon had the girl come up on stage dancing, and then like she got into this club that was overaged, and then she ended up being underage. Like, it's like that's kind of a tough scenario, because like she wasn't even supposed to be in there to begin with.
See, I'm not
Not saying
mad
that
at
this is
situations like that. Like I'll be the first. I'm just gonna take the flat for it. I'm not mad at situations like that because I don't think that person knowingly was doing something illegal.
right. And to be fair, like I said, sometimes people don't look their age, but that's still obviously not an excuse. Josh Giddey's responsibility to find that information out. Second of all, Josh Giddey's also super young as well too. I mean, he's 21. He doesn't even look like he's 21. So I don't know. There's a lot of different dynamics here that's at play. However, seeing some of the articles that you sent me, that I read some articles and stuff like that. Like, first of all, I didn't know Josh Giddey was this active on TikTok. So there's a lot of Josh Giddey TikTok content I watched, right? And then it seems like whoever this person is that's recurring in these snapshots or whatever, is like the same person, and it's like maybe multiple occurrences, like not like just a one day thing. You meet this
Oh
person
no
one
no
day,
no! Like
like
it was really cool and like they was Netflix and chill. Like a couple of days a
right.
week. Yeah. I
So
wonder
I
where the
think
girl
that's the
parents
thing.
was at too. Like did they know like an NBA star was just in there like just snagging on their daughter? Like
Yeah. So that's the thing that's a little confusing, because it's like, it's if this is true, and we're not going to assume it isn't true, right? Like, we got to see what plays out. This is really tough for Josh Giddey, because it's like, dude, like, if you're actually hanging out with somebody that young, and like this isn't just like one mistake, like, you at this point you have to know her age. Like, you don't hang out with somebody multiple times, you don't know their age. Like, it's like almost like knowing their name at this point. Like,
dude was
so
probably dropping her off at college. I mean high school. Oops, my bad. High school. Like he already knows. Hell, they say he was talking to her brothers.
oh, like he's friendly with her brothers, like he knows them too.
Yeah, like supposedly they recorded some conversations where he was talking to the brothers. Yeah.
Wow, so this seems like a situation where he may have known. Okay, well, I mean, listen, I mean, I know he's Australian. He's not used to our customs here, but like it don't fly. It don't fly out here. I can tell Josh Giddey that, and he probably already knows it doesn't fly around here. But on a quick basketball tip, this really stinks for OKC team that honestly, Trey, was getting the best press ever. They were getting national TV games. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander obviously is a budding superstar. We talked about Chet on the podcast multiple times before the season that we expected him to look good, and he probably even exceeded that. I mean, they had everything rolling here, and this would just be like honestly, this would be a almost a bigger blow than the Memphis Grizzlies young team being really good and then John Morant not being there.
I think so, but I think the only difference I would say is that if we just talking about purely from a basketball perspective, when we're talking about the guys that they're going to have to pay going forward, I think that Josh Giddey was going to be the odd man out anyway.
I don't know. I mean that was hard to tell. It's hard to tell. And by the way, we don't know if he's gonna be the odd man out now just because of that situation. Like we don't know how that ends. But what do you think would be realistic? I mean, because I don't know a situation like this specifically in the NBA, and so I don't know what the conduct policy would
I
be.
don't think they can do anything until you actually get like some kind of police evidence or the court says that he's guilty of something. Because at this point, all it is just a fake rumor, like as far as we know.
Right. And at the same time, I know we got pictures and we got Snapchats and stuff like that, and there's really nothing there that's like showing that anything actually happened. It just is like alluding to things as far as what I see from pictures. If
Exactly.
I'm
That's what
seeing
all
this
I see is
correctly.
like it's alluded. Like it doesn't look good, but it's not saying that he's guilty of anything.
Right, right. He's not committing an actual crime on there. It's like you're taking some pictures. Like, yeah, you're a little close to if somebody is underage, probably a picture I wouldn't take around a 15-year-old, but doesn't mean that you're doing anything, right? So, and even outside of the captions that she's putting in the videos and stuff, but it seems like bad news all around for Josh Giddey. But
Hey, I do want to say
man, that
one thing too. Chat unfollowed. No, he didn't unfollow him, but like he deleted all the pictures in tweets where he
Chet
was.
deleted all his pictures with Josh Giddey.
Yeah,
Oh
I'm like,
man.
hey man, don't you got a ride for your homie? Like,
Wait. So is Josh Giddey still playing?
yo, yeah, he's still playing. He
So
got it.
wait, so wait, how does that go? He's like, he just shows up in the locker room the next day, like, Brad, like I saw you delete all the pictures with me on there. Like, what's up with that?
Like, I,
Like,
hey, I guess he like. What can he say? Like, I guess everybody looking at him like he's stupid in the locker room, so he can't say too much.
or I guess he maybe Josh Giddey does take personally, like, hey man, I understand, like you gotta do what you gotta do to protect yourself at this point. Because I don't know, that seems like I gotta go to work the next day with somebody that I'm clearly trying to like distance myself from. I don't want people to know that I'm cool with you.
Nah, man. You posted like, hey, you the homie. It's all good.
Nah, I ain't going down for the homies. Nah, I ain't going down for the homies. I don't know what you're talking
Hey
about.
man, we gonna
Yeah.
snitch.
No, okay, all right. Try them if you want to, but okay. But yeah, man. I mean, that's crazy, but we got to see where that story goes. But anyway, I do want to talk about since I mentioned the in-season tournament. Trey, I got to mention we talked about the in-season tournament a little bit before. I just watched the Heat game. It looks like we're gonna be eliminated, unfortunately. But I love the in-season tournament games. Every single in-season tournament game I've watched, and this is just not just the Heat ones. I've seen Golden State ones and other teams. Is it just me or the intensity just feels like higher and it feels like guys are actually really really trying hard to win in a regular season game a little bit more than they would have typically done in the first place?
Oh no. Like you could definitely tell that the in season tournament has kind of picked up guys' effort as far as like early regular season basketball games. Like they're trying really hard, like for it to be regular season games, and I love that. And I think like it's just that incentive of the $500,000. I mean, I don't care how much money you have. That's a good little bit of change that you can have. Like I can buy a new car with it. I can buy my girlfriend a house with that. I can go blow it at the strip club. I can do whatever I want with that.
Yep. I mean, I think honestly the money part is a big incentive for it. But you know what's crazy and it sounds like so trivial. Like these guys are just competitors at the highest level. It's like you put something in front of them, like guys just want to win. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like it breaks up the monotony of the season and it's just like you're just going through your same routine. And it's like because these games are like once a week or, sometimes twice a week, it feels like it's different than the other games. So it's like where maybe your body's not feeling well, you're a little not as rested, you're tired, stuff like that. You kind of get up for these games and look, the NBA's done everything to make you feel like it's a different game. You wearing the different jerseys, the court looks different, the arenas are even sometimes even more packed, right? So they're doing everything that's telling you that this is a different game. So you almost got no choice but to treat it like a different game. So that's kind of the great part about it. Now, early takeaways from it. I mean, there's probably a couple things that can change. I think some of the rules are tricky. Maybe we'll see how it goes, but the point differential thing seems to be a little bit confusing for some folks, and it seems to be like as we're recording this is the last day of it. I think it is for some regions. Seems like you have an advantage if you play the games towards the end because you know your point differential that you would need to get in. So that could be an advantage that maybe the NBA didn't anticipate at the time, or maybe they did, but they just wanted to see how it played out. But for example, like I think it was Boston was playing tonight, or I think it was the Knicks were playing tonight. They're playing Charlotte, and they needed to not only win the game, but they needed to win by a certain amount. Now, to be honest, were they probably going to blow out Charlotte anyway? Charlotte's not very good. LaMelo Ball is injured, probably, but it helps if you know you're like, hey, we got to win by 18 tonight. You know what I mean? It helps coaching if you know you got to win by 18 tonight because we got to keep these players in. And it seems like coaches are doing the same thing. They're not shortening the rotations, like they're extending it almost as if this is like a playoff game. And I like it.
I mean, I love it. And the thing I like about it is that even with the point differential, is getting guys to play for the entirety of the game. I know certain
Mhm.
guys like DeMar DeRozan, he's complaining about it because he thinks that other teams are running up the score. But to me, that's kind of just if you don't want them to run up the score, then play some good defense, even if it's the end of the game. You know what I mean?
Well, listen, DeMar DeRozan is frustrated in Chicago for a lot of other
They need to
reasons
blow that
outside of
team up. Like side note, they just need to go ahead and get rid of it.
it, it. It seems like everyone has known for the last year and a half to 2 years. We've talked about this on the podcast for at least a year and a half that they needed to blow this team up. It seems like everyone knows that this is supposed to happen except for the Chicago Bulls. And I think they know it. Or sorry, I shouldn't say that they don't know it. They're just being stubborn to it for whatever reason. But it's time to go, man. Like and the unfortunate part we've talked about this too the unfortunate part about it is it's not really most of their doing. That Lonzo Ball injury, I think, changed a lot. I don't think they were going to compete for a championship regardless, but they never really got a chance to see that full squad together and then see if they needed to add another piece to then make it a championship contender. But as at this point, they got to blow these pieces up, and we should be on this podcast playing matchmaker for Zach Levine and DeMar DeRozan as far as which contenders they're going to go to.
No, like that Lonzo injury, I can't. I think you said it best. Like it just changed a lot. I mean, I still think even if he's healthy, they're going to be like a second round exit team. But that's a lot better than being one of the worst teams in the NBA and having malcontent stars just because they're so angry that they have to be there all year.
Players only meeting after one game.
Bro, how do you even do that after one game? Like, what's the meeting even about?
I don't even know what we're talking about. Like we just had a whole training camp. Like I don't really know what's happening. Like that is a scary situation for that to be after one game. And to your Alonzo Ball point too, Trey. What you're right. There probably would have been a second round exit team anyway. But if you're a second round exit team and you look good, then that means you probably had the assets to maybe go trade some guys and maybe go bring another star in, right? And then you take it over the top. Like we just didn't see if they had any of those opportunities. So or maybe they could have traded some of those guys and got some picks and really restarted over. I mean, I don't know. There's like a million different scenarios, but yeah, it really stinks for them. But I mean, I'm excited to see where these guys are going to eventually move because I think they're going to help some contenders out, for sure. But yeah, but early takeaways in the end season tournament, I'm pretty happy about it. Your boy LeBron and the Lakers seem to only play well in end season tournament. Trade they just got blown out by 40 by Philly.
And
I'm not
Anthony
going to say it's
Davis only had 17 points. I'm so mad that we picked them. Like all three of us, you, me, JP, picked them. I think like to go to the finals because I'm like I don't know why I put my faith in AD.
But it's only one game though. It's only
No,
one
it's
game.
only
It was
one game. I'm just
horrible.
saying he does this all the time. Like I watch most of the games. Like he does this all the
Yeah.
time.
But to be honest, how do you feel in terms of him playing? Because I feel like he's playing pretty consistent for the most part or in this early part of this year, which is a good sign. And he's been relatively healthy for Anthony Davis standards. Like I know he had the one injury against the Heat and stuff like that, but for the most part, he's been like available.
He has. It's just that it seems when he has these bad games, it almost always seems like he has them in the worst spot. Like he always
Mm.
has them in the biggest games. It's never like he has a bad game against the Chicago Bulls. Which hey, you don't ever want him to have a bad game, but if you're gonna pick to have a bad game, have it against a bad team. But it's like when you play Philly, when you play Golden State, when you play Denver, when you play some of these upper echelon teams, that's when he seems to struggle the most.
I mean, do we think there's an actual reason for that? Because I mean, here's the thing that's hard about Anthony Davis. I think we always remember him playing really, really well in big postseason games, but they were all in the bubble. And I'm not trying to take away from that, but a lot of guys played really, really well in the bubble. I mean, you can even look at Anthony Davis 3-point percentages. He's never shot that well ever in his career, before or after the bubble. So is it just a matter of him not playing well in big games because I don't want to say shrinking in the moment, but he just doesn't rise to the occasion like LeBron or some of these other stars do?
Yeah, I don't think he's as good as maybe we necessarily think or thought he would be. I think the bubble kind of saved, I don't want to say saved, but it helped his legacy out a lot because I think, like you said, a lot of guys were playing really good in the bubble. And I think it was just like, oh man, this is what he's going to do all the time. And, he did happen to win a final. So he kind of got that monkey off of his back, to say so. But I kind of think that's
Hmm.
what it was. I think it was just kind of more of an outlier.
And here's the problem. That doesn't look good for our picks if we pick the Lakers
Oh, no,
because
no, no. I think we
we
already look bad on that one. Yeah,
well here's the thing we don't, here's why we can't look fully bad because LeBron has shown us he can still turn it on even at this age in a playoff series where he can rest between games and stuff like that. And if they can manage his minutes, which I know they're not doing a great job of it now, but you know, last year they were scrambling just to get into the playoffs. I don't know if they'll be in that situation this year. And if you're the Lakers, I mean, you're not really tripping on a seed too much. Like you can't be like a seventh and eighth seed, but like if you're a 4 or 5 seed, whatever, like you got to get in at that point, and then just kind of make it happen, because that's basically what it's going to look like for you. Because I don't think they're going to be a top 3 seed in the West, no matter what, just because of how well the other teams are playing. So, and I know we talk about Phoenix. Phoenix is an outlier too, because we still haven't seen Bradley Beal and the whole crew out there at one time.
I don't even
So
know if it's an outlier anymore. I just don't think we're going to see them together.
yeah, I don't know what that's about. And the funny thing is, who would have thought KD would be the healthiest of all three of those guys?
It kind of
Like, who would
reminds
have
me like
thought?
of Brooklyn, like not as far as health like being an issue in Brooklyn, but like it's just like for some reason none of the star players can ever get on the same page and be on the court at the same time.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Even with Brooklyn, they got their one shot and they were probably going to win that series and maybe even, the finals. And then the injury bug kind of got them. So hopefully the Phoenix Suns at least get that chance because they sure enough don't have any depth. So they go into a playoff series again with Devin Booker playing point guard and Kevin Durant, and they run it up into the Nuggets or even the Lakers for that matter. I don't think they're gonna be having a chance to beat. I mean, they'll have a chance. Yeah, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, you got a chance, but I wouldn't pick them, at least at this point from what I've seen. Although they have played well, so that's gonna be interesting. But anyway, Trey, let's talk about a little college football before we get out of here. New rankings dropped. I know you got some various thoughts about the rankings.
I
Florida
do.
State is back in,
Boo.
so I'll let you go anywhere with it because I got some issues with Florida State being in the top four, but I'm not and bias alone, not really sure if they should be in the top four. But go ahead.
Okay, I just have a question. Ohio State just lost, and they really haven't played that many great teams other than Notre Dame, which really is like, they're okay, but they're not great this year.
Well,
How
wait, hold on. Before you ask the question, are we when we judge these wins, are we judging based off of how good they were at the time or what they ended up being? Because Notre Dame was, a top 10 team at the time,
I think we judge them
but
based off of what they are end up being. Because hear me out, I don't want to go too far, but if you're gonna do that with Florida State, then I can say the same thing about LSU and Clemson.
true, true. Okay. No, no, it's fair, fair. You can continue on with the question. I just wanted to make sure because
Yeah,
people always make that argument. It's like it felt one way in September, right? And then now, it feels a little different.
no, I'm looking back in hindsight, 2020 vision.
Okay.
So
Gotcha,
with that
gotcha.
being said, how is Ohio State after this loss ahead of Texas and Alabama? I just don't agree with that.
Okay, well, I don't think. Here's the thing with Alabama. I'll address that one first. I judge the playoff. I should say I try. I try to judge the playoff off of what you've done this year. The only exception I give, and I guess unfair, Georgia's the two-time national champ, back to back. They got to really be in this unless they just lost like a couple games. With Alabama, they just didn't look good for the first quarter of the season. Just didn't look very good at all. They had a quarterback issues. Obviously, they've saw that with Milroe, and they've played really, really well as of the last couple of months of the season, and they get credit for that. But I can't just erase the first half of that
But
season.
it wasn't the
And I
first
mean,
half. It was two games that didn't look good. In Texas and then USF, they looked terrible. And then after that, they got their act together.
okay, but I mean, you're struggling with USF. I mean, I just can't ignore that.
Yeah, but
That's
you
the
didn't
thing.
even have your starting quarterback. I mean, it wasn't like he was hurt, but he was.
And
Yeah.
you almost lost to Auburn. And we just discussed before this podcast how horrible everybody that saw that last play. So like, and I know it's a rivalry game, whatever, but it's not like they're just like running through teams like they are before. Like, I mean, they had their struggles with Tennessee there for a little while. I mean, the margin is so small. You win, but I got to judge how the wins looked when we're talking about getting to the playoffs. And I can't reward you over Ohio State that, yeah, they don't have a bunch of marquee wins. They did beat Penn State. They did beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame, and I know Notre Dame isn't as good as we thought they were, but Notre Dame is still good than or still better than most of the teams Alabama has played, even in the SEC, right? So that's got to matter at some point too. Now the Texas argument it gets interesting because Texas didn't just beat Alabama, Trey. They kind of dominated them. They kind of dominated them on the road. They went and beat them. Now Texas has kind of struggled. I know Quinn Ewers is in and out, the quarterback. But if you ask me, I think they could play with any of those other four teams that are in the playoff. But are they deserving to get in? That's tough. And then that brings me to my Florida State argument. Florida State is undefeated. ACC is probably the weakest of the Power Five conferences right now. But the truth of the matter is, they're probably not going to really win much if they have the backup quarterback in with Jordan Travis. But should they get penalized for that?
Nope.
You don't think they should?
No, at the end of the day, are they going to get. I just got to be honest. I got to say, ladies, are they going to get their shit wrecked? Yeah, they are. But
Yeah, so why should we let them in? That's the point.
if you win 12 games in a Power Five conference, like I almost have to put you in the playoffs.
Says who? No, you don't.
Why not? Like, who am I going to put over you?
Over Florida State, I would still give you Alabama or Texas.
And I'm not saying they're not better teams, but let's not like Florida State is chopped liver either. You still beat Clemson, who's having a down year, but it's still a decent team. You still
Miami beat Clemson, Trey. I mean, we being real. Come on now. Like, we are Hurricanes fans, so we're not trying to openly disrespect the Hurricanes, but come on now.
All right, but they beat LSU. And then if they get there, they're going to have to beat Louisville as well.
Ain't nobody worried about. Okay, listen. Anybody worried about Louisville? Trey, you're making my argument. If we know that Florida State's going to get whacked once they get in there because they don't have Jordan Travis, why am I going to have them in there for them just to get whacked just because I'd be like, well, they were
because they did what they were supposed to do. Like, they did listen.
Okay, well, you know what? Last time somebody did what they were supposed to do, TCU, and you saw how that ended.
Yeah, I didn't agree with. Hold on, I didn't even watch that game, but I didn't agree with it because I already knew it was going to happen. Like I promised, I didn't watch a second of it. But
whatever you thought was going to happen, it was worse.
Oh, when I saw the final score, I knew it was worse. I'm like, I can't believe it.
Yeah. Right, like we all thought it was going to be a blowout. We're like, come on, not that bad. Like I was like, come on, like, but here's in your defense. I will give them credit. TCU did play Michigan last year and beat them in the semifinal. So it's not like they just went there in their first game, they got whacked. They did at least get there and they beat Michigan. And that was a great game. Like we've talked about it. We love that college football. Those two semifinal games were the best thing that happened for the college football playoff because those are two great games. So they at least got there and won. But right now with Florida State without their starting quarterback, and Trey, you know this. And you know this being from Tallahassee, and people love Florida State, and you know you're not there anymore, but you hear about this all the time. Jordan Travis was as important to a team as probably any other quarterback in the country, like in terms of making that thing work. Like Florida State's not like a full-on just great, well-oiled machine. Like Jordan Travis was fixing a lot of holes. They got Keon Coleman, some receivers, but he was that important to that team. I just don't think, and the backup played well versus Florida, especially that second half. But it's just hard for me to be like, I got to let Florida State in just because they've done that in this week ACC.
But it's a
It's
year
just
too where
tough.
you don't have any great teams, so I think that kind of helps them. It's not like you have an Alabama team and a Georgia team that are both undefeated and they look great, like they look head and shoulders above everybody else. Like in a year where everybody looks like the top 10, like they all look like they're sort of in the same area as far as like greatness. But then you just have to give it to the team that's 12-0. Like regardless, they do earn a certain amount of respect for being 12-0.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. Why can't Oregon get in? They lost to Washington by 3 points, and they're probably
They
better
can't
than.
get in because if they beat Washington, I guarantee you they'll be in. It's as simple as that. See, that's
Well,
why
I'm
I don't feel
saying,
bad. Hold up. This is why I don't feel bad for. I don't understand it, but this is why I don't necessarily feel bad for Alabama and Oregon. Is because I think both of those teams control their own destiny.
you're saying because they lost previously in the year.
Not even just that, but because they're facing, well, in Alabama's case, they're facing the best team, and then Oregon's case, yes, they're facing the team that they lost to. And if they win this Saturday, no, this Friday, I'm sorry, they're going to be in the college football playoffs. Period.
But I mean,
Oh, they're going
why
to
are
be
they going
in.
to be? I think it just would make the conversation so convoluted at that point because Washington would still have a legitimate argument too.
They would, but then what's the argument is going to be, well, timing of it. Oregon had time to rebound, and Washington looks like they were coming. They're on a downward trend because they've been playing close games as of here lately. So they're going to be like, well, Oregon just looks like a better team. It's not the fact that they lost, but it's just a matter of when they lost. That's the reason Alabama has a shot because had they lost to Texas, let's just say last week, they would be completely out of this conversation for getting into the playoffs.
Okay, so let me drop a quick scenario. Washington beat Oregon by 3 points, right? Let's say in the Pac-12 championship game, Oregon sneaks by and they get a win. Like it's not convincing, whatever, but they barely get a win. I mean, what do you do there in that scenario? Like if you're the
Oregon.
committee, because
And I'm not saying I agree with it, but I already know what they're going to do. It's what we always see. You cannot lose late in the season. If you lose early for whatever reason, it doesn't count as much because they say that you had time to rebound and kind of regain your composure from that loss. But if you lose late, they're going to hold it against you. That's how it always is.
and that's yeah, and I know what you mean. You're you are right, and I don't even know if it's necessarily fair or not, but yeah, that's probably how they're going to go. I mean, okay, before we get out of here, just give me flat out. I don't care what the results pending. Who do you think are the four best teams? Like you would just want to see like matchup wise play each other, even if it's not realistic that it's going to happen.
The four
Like who
best
are the four
teams.
best teams?
Okay.
Yes, who are the four best teams?
Do I have to name or you do want the matchups?
No, forget matchups. Just who are the four best teams. You don't even have to give me an order. Like who's the four best
Okay.
teams in the
I can do
country?
that easily. Georgia,
Okay.
Alabama, Oregon, Washington.
Wow, you really don't think Michigan's not one of the best four?
This
I mean, because they are really, really good.
Hear me
They
out.
are
Hear me out.
really
Hear
good.
me out. I really like Michigan, and I guess I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. I really like them. Hell, last year I picked them to win the national championship. But I
Right.
think JJ McCarthy, he leaves a lot to be desired. And maybe just because Jim Harbaugh isn't there, but these last three games that he hasn't been there, really trust him. Like, yes, they have a great running back, but they're not relying on him a lot. And I think that's going to be a problem where you face some of the SEC defenses that can stifle that run game. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't trust them enough. I think we kind of saw that last year with TCU. Like, did you see? I think TCU ended up beating Michigan by like 2 touchdowns. I know it's still kind of a close game all the way through, but like they still ended up beating them by 2 touchdowns. And
Right.
then did you see how they got trounced by Georgia? Like I really think there's a big difference. Like look at Louisville and Kentucky this past year. Like there's an SEC bias, but it's a bias for a reason. I just think they're on a different level. And I think if you're going to beat one of those SEC teams that has a really good stifling defense, you need to have an offense that is just really killing on all cylinders. And I don't think that's the Michigan team. While I think Washington, I think they can reach those heights.
Okay. Let me give you who I think the four best teams are, and regardless of matchups, whatever. I think the four best teams are Georgia, no order: Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon. I do
Oh
not.
my God!
I do not. And here's I'll tell you why.
Stop.
I do
Ohio
not believe.
State.
Here's
They don't
why.
even have a quarterback. Okay, come on.
Okay, so I think there's some questions about Kyle McCord,
Yeah,
but he has
those.
played. Okay, but he also was driving his team down a field at the very end there, and he threw a pick. I get that, but he also drove his team down and beat in Notre Dame. I know it was months ago, and like you said, it's not recent,
And he threw
but
two picks in that. He didn't. They didn't get him, but he threw two picks. But yeah, keep continue.
okay. But here's what I'll say about Ohio State. They got Marvin Harrison Jr. They got the running back Hendrickson. Like they've got a full squad. The defense is really really good this year as compared to other Ohio State defenses, and they still played Michigan very tough. And Michigan still had to sneak out of there with a win. And I know their wins aren't super impressive, but I think what they can do well travels. Washington is not one of the top four teams to me. They're not even one of the top six teams to me. I'm gonna tell you why. Washington has struggled multiple times throughout this year. They are almost like the Dolphins in a way. It's like they can only really play one way. And if you get pressure on Michael Penix, they don't have a defense to really sustain anything on the other end either. I can already see the scenario of them getting into a game into the college football playoff and playing Georgia, playing Alabama, playing Michigan, and they getting whacked. They
I can
getting
see that.
absolutely
I
whacked.
can see that too. But like I said, the reason I put them above Michigan is because I think that their floor is just so much lower than Michigan. Like it's not even funny. But I also think that their ceiling is so much higher as well. So like it sounds weird. Like I think 9 times out of 10 Michigan would play better. But if there's a team that can beat Georgia, I think it can be this Washington team that has an explosive offense.
So here's the thing. I just think Oregon's better than them because they have just as an explosive offense. And then they actually are physical at the line of scrimmage and they have a better
But
defense.
I named Oregon in the top four now. So I said
Well,
Oregon,
yeah, yeah.
Washington,
No,
Ohio, Georgia, and then Alabama. I named them.
no, that's fair. That's fair. I'm just saying that that's my argument over Oregon anyway. I really Oregon's probably like the second best team in the country. Like honestly, like if I just like really looking back on
I
it,
think so.
they just got the
I can
loss.
get with that. Yeah, I think they're the second. Listen,
Yeah, they just got the loss. Now the Alabama thing, I'm just not sold. And the only reason I'd be letting Alabama in is because of previous Alabama, bias at this point. And I don't think that's really fair to the other teams. I think those other teams are better. And Michigan, look, no matter what you feel about Harbaugh, he always has a great team. They're always physical. They can run the ball. I know you don't love JJ McCarthy, but he's better than he was last year. They got good weapons on the outside, and their defense might be the best of them all. Like when it comes down to it. So like
their
I
defense
like
is
those
legit.
teams.
Yeah, and I
Yeah, the
like JJ
defense is legit.
McCarthy, but I just don't.
I know what you mean. I mean,
Yeah, he just doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't bring them over the top, but I like him. I mean,
he
he's
doesn't
better than
wow you, but he
Cade
gets.
McNamara, so like whatever.
Yeah. Well, okay, he's better than. I mean, yeah. I mean, well, he doesn't wow you, but he gets the job done. I mean,
Exactly. That's how
the
he gets the job done. That's a perfect way to put it.
yeah. The good news is, no matter what, we go get the answers to this weekend. That's the great. This is like some of the greatest time of college football. Like the the rivalry week, and then the next week you get the conference championship games. I love this. Even if you're not a big college football fan, like this is the actual perfect time to kind of tune in because you're gonna get the intensity at the highest level. So you know. I can't wait for this no matter what. And like we've been talking about it all year, Trey. Probably gonna be glued to the TV all Saturday, which I would have
Oh, even
never thought I would
Friday.
say. Oh yeah, Friday. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, started beginning Friday. Yeah, so I'm gonna be glued in from then. So
Can I say this one
hopefully,
thing though? This is what I hate about
yeah,
being on the West Coast. Like I don't get off of work until 5, and the game starts at 5.
yeah. You're like commuting home and you can't even watch.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
and I know you used to tell me like, "Oh wow, that sucks," but when you were up here, you had to admit like it sucks. Like you're trying to watch a college football game, and it's a good game, and it starts at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, so there are two facets to that. It does suck. At the same time, when it was the NFL games and it was Sunday night football, your night was over at 8 o'clock. The
Yeah,
game
yeah,
was
yeah,
done, and you still. So that was the only thing I did. Like I was like, man, I'm watching Sunday night football, and it's still the sun out. You know what I'm saying? Like it's still like.
yeah, yeah.
So
So there's the
that
one
was
plus.
cool.
Yeah.
Whereas to me, Sunday night football. Hold on, Trey, and don't you dare get me started on that Monday night football
Oh, I didn't even
schedule.
watch it. Like I
When
no,
I see the Bears and the Vikings
I'll
on
watch
Monday night
pieces of it.
football, and it is 6-3 in the third quarter, I'm going to sleep. I'm sorry. I'm going like, what do we do? Let me just. I know he's going to podcast, but can I just petition Trey? I know they do the flex schedules later in the year.
No, they need to put that earlier.
please tell me if I'm wrong. I do not. We have seen enough evidence to stop putting the Bears, the Raiders, and the Broncos on prime time football. Them three teams. I'm sure I'm missing a few teams. How many times have I seen the Bears on Thursday night football, Sunday night football, Monday night football? Don't even get me started with the Russell Wilson Broncos. I know they're playing well lately, but it ain't like it's exciting football. And the Raiders with Jimmy Garoppolo, y'all, they went into the season trade with Jimmy Garoppolo. They knew he was starting quarterback, and they still gave this team that many primetime games. Look, I like watching Max Crosby as much as everybody else, but not this much. Like, come on now. Like, I mean, like this is ridiculous. Like the amount of primetime games those three teams get, and listen, I'll let the Vikings one go because I think maybe they expected Justin Jefferson to be there. Fine, I will let that one go. But those three teams, please stop putting them on primetime football, please. And look, I thought I was gonna be the guy I used to be the guy Trey that would complain and be like, "Oh yeah, you got to give all the teams a fair shot at primetime games." Actually, no, you don't. You know what you need to do? Put Patrick Mahomes on primetime every week. And now at this point, put Justin Herbert. Actually, the Chargers might need to be on that list too, because how many points did the Chargers score against the Ravens, Trey, on Sunday night? So they might need to be. I can't even say Justin Herbert anymore. Give me Jacksonville or something. You know what, Trey? This is what they should have flexed. They should have flexed that Jacksonville-Houston game to Sunday night. That's what they should have did. I'd have took that game any day. CJ Stroud versus Trevor Lawrence. But when I got a quarterback matchup of Justin Fields and Josh Dobbs, Trey, what are we doing?
Yeah, it was
That's it.
terrible.
That's it.
I will say this one
Yeah.
thing though. Justin
Mhm.
Fields on that last drive, I think he might have saved his career in Chicago.
Ooh.
If he
I
loses
wish I
that, I
could say
think
I
they pay.
watched it, but I did see the highlight. Yeah.
No, that might be the only drive I did watch. But I have to give him credit. I think the tide was kind of turning on him, and I think they were going to lose all faith that you lost a quarterback that threw 4 interceptions. But the fact that he was able to pull that off, I think he might have bought himself another year.
Well, we'll see how Ryan Poles feels because get the number one pick, which
Hey,
they obviously they got their pick and Carolina, so we'll see how that
if
goes.
you get the number 1 pick, I'm not even mad at you.
I mean, we're gonna have a lot of time to talk about this, but that's a real decision.
I
If
traded,
it's
and I know. I mean, I'm not trading. I'm sorry. I picked Caleb or Drake. I trade Justin Fields, and I try to get me a wide receiver with him.
yeah, the only problem is you're not gonna get real value for Justin Fields at this
You
point.
not, but I got Caleb or Drake May.
I know. So that's gonna be the discussion. That's gonna be hard because your scenario works, Trey. If Justin Fields really balls out the last half of this year and shows us some real stuff, because you're not gonna really get a lot of value for him, and you don't want to be the guy that just trades him just to trade him. But then you also don't want to be the guy that I know you can always get a quarterback every year, but you may not get a quarterback like a Caleb Williams every year,
Yeah,
or like even a
generational.
right. So man, that's a tough. I mean, I guess it's a good situation to have. It's certainly a better situation than Carolina. So we'll leave we'll leave that there. We'll leave that exactly because I know you can get started on Frank Reich. We won't have enough time for that tonight. But anyhow, I want to thank everybody so much for joining us once again. If this is again your first time listening to the podcast, your 10th time, 100th time. Thank you. We do appreciate it like always. Again, do us a favor. Takes a second. Just give us a like. Subscribe to the podcast, rate us, review us, anything that you can do to help. Follow us on social. We always try to obviously connect with you guys, and pay attention to the YouTube shorts and all that good stuff. So we got a lot of content coming out for you. We want to thank you guys so much. It's much appreciated. And of course, I will swing it to Trey.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. And PSA, always ask her age. Thank you.
Peace.